This call is now being recorded.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. All right. Wow, how about it? Master Blaster Podcasters here. Thank you for joining us. We're putting this information on blast. We've got a lot to do today. To all the people listening, thank you for holding out for us, for our subscribers. We have been away from business for a while, doing some personal things, but we're back today. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're doing basically the daily news, things that are hot topics in the news right now, divided up between entertainment and politics. I think we mentioned on the last podcast we were going to be doing mass shootings and gun control and mass shootings. We're still working on that. We will have that for you, I believe, next time. Dirty, how you doing?
Good.
Excellent. I'll tell you what, I told you before we talked that I had my morning coffee, my quote-unquote morning coffee. I am slamming right now. This must have been the strongest coffee I've made in a while. So I'm going to be racing and running and juggernauting through this whole episode. So let's rock and roll. So what we'll do is, I guess we'll just start off with entertainment, then we'll go to politics. These are things in the news as of today, which is what, Wednesday, September 20th, I believe.
Yes.
Let's start off with Dirty. You want to talk about Russell Brand, who's been in the news. First of all, the guy's been in the news for years about being a crackpot, and he keeps going on to shows. I think I saw him, Bill Maher, recently on his sort of underground podcast thing. He's got something like a Joe Rogan type show. And even Bill Maher during the show was basically like, after a certain amount of time and after a few whiskeys and cigars, was like looking at him like, what else do I have to say to this guy? Like, he's kind of out of his mind and he's all over the place. What is going on in the news right now related to him?
Oh, he's freaking out. He's freaking out because he put out a video saying that he's going to be accused of sexual assaults and that it's fake and that it's wrong and that they're trying to get him because he knows too much and he's spilling the beans on Big Pharma. And it's funny because it's coordinated right before this documentary that this British news show, the Channel 4, did a documentary on 4 women who had come forward, with evidence that he sexually assaulted them, like he raped them. And I saw most of it, and it's pretty gross. It's worse than I thought. He is fucking nasty. And of course, all the alt-right people support him. You had this one conservative newscaster in England support him, just because, he quote unquote talks the truth, speaks the truth. But he is fucking horrible. I saw some footage, and a lot of women who work with him are commented how he'd whip his dick out a lot. There was once where someone described he peed in a bottle, and then after that said that this is from the Queen.
Now, is that a problem these days?
Yeah, I don't think it's cool to, it's like, I guess, I understand if you're traveling in your car or somewhere, but at work, in the studio, pissing in a bottle, and then there's an interview.
Showing your, genitalia.
Right, whipping out your wiener, and then there's one where this guy, Jimmy Savile, I don't know if you ever heard of him, he was the most beloved person in British entertainment. He was friends with Margaret Thatcher and all that. He came out after he died. He was exposed for being he has to be the biggest or the second biggest rapist in the history of the world. He's up there with Jeffrey Epstein. They're tied. I don't know, but this guy's a creeper. So he's interviewing Russell's interviewing Jimmy Savile, and they're both talking about Russell's offering up one of his assistants naked, because Russell says, asks Jimmy, how would you like the woman? And Jimmy says, I prefer naked to start with and all this. But it's just it's the grossest, I can't even explain it. It just, it was just unbelievable that they had a shot, of them talking. And it's it's like the king talking to the prince, it's fucking just gross, man. I just disgusted, but and they showed all this footage where it's it's just amazing how this guy was just out in the open with it. I mean, he just, he'd always fucking pull his pants down all the time. And they
sounds
just,
sounds like a Howard Stern show from maybe 20 or 30 years ago. It's funny that's
right.
Kind of commonplace. It's one thing, I guess, if there's, we talk about on this show, hopefully we'll have some more interviews, or start doing some interviews with some people in the near future, mass shootings being one of them. But there's what people sign or release consent as far as what's the material we're going to talk about and what's going to be released and what they're going to basically, if you're going to pull your pants down and have genitalia on a show, you definitely want people to sign some kind of release form. I would imagine that's regular on a talk show, but this sounds like an example of something that probably wouldn't have been a big deal 30 years ago. Not the accused rapings, but of course that type of a format on a show.
Actually, no, there were. It was he on BBC Two. He had 42,000 complaints, and they did nothing about it. There are people that were working with him that had said something, and the higher ups didn't do anything about it. There are people that said something. It wasn't accepted. I mean, I know what you're saying. In America, we have Man Cow and all these different shows, and it's expected. But this is like talk shows. This is like Conan equivalent, or Jimmy Fallon late night, or Stephen Colbert, and the dude came out and just and he grind on women and stuff, and it's he'd catch people off guard, and then they just they would let it slide because he was so big, he was so famous that he had a lot of power, and that was one of the issues, is that the women who were accused, they never said anything because it's they realized how powerful he was, and he would make threats, legal threats, with the help of his lawyers, be like, if you say anything, I'm going to sue you, or I'm going to handle this, and they would make threats. So they felt powerless, and so now after this came out, one woman went to the cops, and the cops are now going to look into it and do something about it. I don't know how. If they let him go on this, you'll have no faith, but it's pretty gross, and he's already acting guilty.
So one thing, a question I have is, and it reminds me of the Trump case where somebody has a megaphone, basically, which is a big social media following, which Russell Brand has. How is he able to go and talk about this case as somebody's building a case against him and about to prosecute, it sounds like? I wonder how he's able to this is something that maybe he should have a gag order about, because already before the case has even started, he's trying to influence a jury as to how the other people are lying and all these kind of things. These are the reasons why there are defamation cases, like with Trump and E. Jean Carroll, and basically everything involving Trump, because anytime there's a case, he talks about it ad nauseum. Not only talks about it, but lies about it through social media platforms. I'm wondering how he's able to, or if he could be in trouble talking about this case as it's being reared against him.
This just happened today. He released his statement Friday. The documentary was just released Saturday or Sunday, and the cops were just brought into the picture, I believe, today.
Okay.
So it's about to go down. Like, and you're right. Like, if he probably comments anymore, they can use that against him.
Right. Okay. Well, we will. I imagine we'll be doing shows like this more in the future. If there's any more updates to these, any new news, we will certainly follow up on this story. The second one we want to talk about is the Danny Masterson rape case, which he just was convicted and sentenced to 30 years, 30 plus years. What's funny about this case, what's weird about this case, horrible, whichever word you want to use, is that this has turned out to be more of a case about Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis has been more of a case of them stepping in and saying some good words about Danny Masterson to try to, I guess, lighten the sentence. There's of course, a few other members of that 70s show, not Topher Grace, but a few of the other members of the show that did actually write these notes to the judge asking for leniency. We're going to go into this because I've heard all kinds of stuff about Ashton Kutcher, which I'll get into in a second, relating to his past more with his marriage to Demi Moore than anything recent. But, Dirty, what do you want to talk about regarding this case and how these guys, who are bigger stars, obviously, than Danny Masterson, these guys are now the centerpiece of this rape case rather than the actual, rather than Danny Masterson, who actually did propagate this, the rape case. I mean, it's actually about him, and now it's become a case about Ashton and Mila. What do you think about this?
Well, I want to add it's not only about them, but it's a statement about Hollywood and the entertainment industry and how so much goes on, and basically, like, people aren't protected. There's nobody stopping it, and how it's like you don't have to be a detective to research or to investigate it. You can see old interviews, and these people just say shit out in the open, make, gross jokes about, the age of some of the younger actresses.
Can you be specific?
So there's an interview with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, and she was 15 at the time. Anyway, she was a minor, and Ashton basically just said, he can't wait till she gets older. She was sitting, I believe, on his lap. There was an actor that worked with Danny Masterson on a show before he got on that 70s show. He was on another show, said that he said don't talk to the women on the set, and threatened him. Basically, Topher Grace is reported to be the only one, he wouldn't hang out with them. Also, Danny Masterson is also a Scientology guy, and then to come to find out, there's a lot of people who are into Scientology, and then they sorry, it was some noise.
No problem. Let me break in here for a second.
Yeah.
This is specifically talking about Ashton and Mila, and specifically talking about Ashton. This is what I've heard. That number one, Danny Masterson, I guess, made dared him to tongue kiss Mila Kunis on the set when she was 14 or 15. Now, granted, she lied about her age to get on the show in the first place. I don't know if they knew what her real age was, but she said she was 18. But the thing is, this is the thing. This is hearsay. What I'm about to, because I don't obviously have any personal knowledge of this. And it's been so long since I've read the article that I can't cite the article of who wrote it. But according to sources in L.A., when Ashton and Demi were married, their thing was to go out to L.A. nightclubs, and of course Ashton being the centerpiece of a organization to help stop child trafficking for poor, young, runaway girls or people that have been stolen or trafficked in any way, writes for them about people not buying brides from other countries, all this kind of thing. Meanwhile, him and Demi Moore were going out to LA nightclubs and farming basically, or grooming, whatever you want to say, picking up runaway girls that made their way into the LA nightclub scene, 15, 16-year-old girls, and they would have three-ways with them. According to sources that I no longer have, that was the main reason why they had a divorce. I guess that Demi went out one night without him and found a 16-year-old girl in a nightclub, had an affair with her, and actually grew feelings for her. Feelings for her grew from this. Ashton demanded to be able to be included in this, and she said no. And that basically started their divorce. So that's a very serious accusation. Now, one of the actual victims in this case, in the Danny Masterson case, when it came up that Ashton and Mila had said some good words about Danny Masterson, they came out and said, Ashton, you're actually going to talk about who's got character and this and that, and who should have leniency. They came out and said, I was witness to phone calls between you and Danny Masterson bragging about under the age of your conquests, of course being underage girls. And she said she had information about him that would, quote unquote, destroy him in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's been sort of a thing that I don't know what the thing is about underage girls. If you have a plethora of 20-somethings at your disposal, why it has to be a 15 or 16-year-old girl, that I have no idea about. But it sounds like there are some really disgusting things going on behind the scenes with his first marriage. And I have not read her book, which supposedly has some more damning things about him at all. But that's what I've heard about him, is that he's a big phony. He doesn't really care. The whole thing about him being the sex trafficking thing was just about to help his brand, which we know lots of LA celebrities pick a cause to champion. And whatever that is, they do it so that championing that cause can be a part of their brand to help people like them. That's certainly no secret, so I guess that was his cause. Whether or not he really cares about it or not, I don't know, but there's some pretty damning evidence that he does not really practice what he preaches as far as in his own, or didn't in the past. So what else do you have to say? By the way, what do you think about this, Dirty, is that one thing that they were talking about in the case as to why to give him leniency, Danny Masterson, is they said he lives a drug-free lifestyle.
Yeah,
and I thought that was ironic because he is accused of drugging his victims.
Right.
So how is he morally superior if he doesn't take drugs himself, yet his main means of having sex with these girls was drugging them? I just don't understand the moral equivalency between he doesn't get high, therefore rape means less to him. But he shouldn't be sanctioned to the same degree because when he rapes people because he doesn't like to drink beers or or whatever his thing, he doesn't like to smoke pot or whatever the quote unquote dangers of Hollywood are. As it turns out, one of the big dangers of Hollywood is young girls, of course, moving there trying to either be stars themselves or align themselves to celebrities to try to obviously get into certain social circles, whatever the excitement may be, who end up being, victims. And it turns out that Ashton and his wife, and I don't want to, take any blame away from her, were a major component in a lot of underage runaway girls that went to LA that they had affairs with.
Yeah, so it was announced, I think, yesterday or the day before that Mila and Ashton Kutcher they quit Thorn. I also heard that actually on another note, Thorn is also, so Ashton Kutcher is he's friends with Jeff Bezos, and Thorn likes to use technology, fresh, brand new technology to spy on people. Same technology they use at the border. He quit that, and Mila quit that. That's
okay. There's nothing more to say.
Man.
We can move on.
No, there is. There is. It's just really disgusting. I just feel like it's a time of exposure. All this shit's coming out, and it's just I think that's like the positive thing about social media is you can have people just come out and they can show evidence, or, you know, they can have witness testimony presented. Also, you know, there's the whole, the other part of this is the Scientology part of it, where a lot of people who are in Scientology, his actor friends, they came to bat for him and, spoke out for him. The Scientology people were protecting him. That's one of the reasons I think it failed, you know, the first round of cases towards Danny and got him off. The Scientology backed him up because I guess within that whole scene, it's I don't know, not a sin, but it goes against the rules to even report sexual assault because the whole Scientology organization it's a predatory creeper organization. Women and non-white people have like no protection. They harass people. So it's just this gross. It's like mushrooming. Everything's overflowing right now.
It sounds like a disgusting cult instead of a religion that's led by a David Koresh-like, let's keep everything in-house, and I'm the ultimate leader and the decision maker, and judge, jury, and executioner. Anytime you have that kind of a setup where you can't live by society's norms, you live by whatever the cult's rules and regulations are, that's dangerous right there. Okay, we can also, too, after a few more of these, we can wrap up with a general take on Hollywood. The next one we have is Jimmy Fallon, which is, I always thought he was like, I wouldn't say, I guess I never really knew too much about him. He presents himself as very, I don't know, like, not harming, or so, like like harmless, like a harmless little wannabe frat guy or something like that. He's one of my least favorite talk show hosts. I mean, I like Stephen Colbert much more, and actually like Jimmy Kimmel more. But supposedly there's been sightings of toxic workplace environment. What have you heard about this?
Same thing. He will party really late on the set. Just gets drunk. He has freak out moments where he yells at the staff. That he's also connected to this case with Horatio Sands. He's just it's just a toxic work environment. And like I said, he drinks while he's working. So
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that's come out, not a lot of specifics that have come out about this case yet. I haven't really heard anything damning the same way, say, about Ellen DeGeneres' show, where she actually, I think there's a strike a few years back, right around the beginning of COVID, where she wanted to cross the picket line and do a show without writers. But also, of course, there was sexual harassment from the producers. And supposedly she was the opposite of what her mantra was, which is everyone be nice to each other. Meanwhile, she was, I guess, a raging bitch to anyone that was underneath her. She's a sweetheart to all the celebrities and just a horrible, pathetic bitch to all of the people working underneath her, which is a very bad motto to work under. And I'm glad that a lot of that stuff was made public, but we'll follow up with the Jimmy Fallon thing. At least for right now, there's not a lot to talk about because there hasn't a lot that's been released, but I guess maybe we'll see more released in the future. What do you think?
Okay. It's a huge, like it's a mushroom cloud. Like everything's coming out. So
yeah, we'll see what comes out in the future. Now let's talk about something that you and I have talked about. It's been a case now for a couple of months, actually close to 6 months, where there's been this, I believe, the SAG-AFTRA strike with the Writers Guild in Hollywood, where the writers are picketing that they're not getting paid enough from Hollywood. And we know that there's a few shows that initially tried to cross the picket line recently to only reverse their decision shortly afterwards, talking about Bill Maher, which you and I are a little divided on Bill Maher. We'll talk about him. And Drew Barrymore, who I could really care less about as far as talk show. And then if there's anybody else that you've heard of, we can talk about that. But what do you think about these guys initially having a plan to cross the picket line before any business was settled with the actual union?
It's ridiculous, and it's like on his podcast with Jim Gaffigan, Bill Maher just basically said that, these people don't deserve a life, or they don't deserve, what they're asking for, that it's just tough shit basically, but he cares about his writers, and he is one. But then there was a report that he was hanging out with the president of Warner Brothers at a game, just hanging out with them. I think he's just a jerk. He's just an asshole. Like, you're nothing without your writers on these shows. You should be treating them, well, because they help make your whole machine run. And it's like to talk about them like that, and the writers in general, it's like what's the problem? What don't you understand? It's like it's like he has forgotten, like, he was a comedian coming up, and it's like you would think he would remember those moments where he was in the beginning, where it's like, you're struggling at first, and it's like then you help the people come up with, but he doesn't see it like that. He just likes to reap all the benefits and not help the people that help, that are on the staff, and make his show a success. And it's horrible. I don't like this guy. Like, I used to watch him for a while, and then I just stopped. I just got tired of his Islamophobia and his sexism, and then his subtle racism too. It just gets, he's an old turd, man. Like I don't know. He's full of shit. Like he's two-faced,
Yeah, so I mean, I agree that he's a severe misogynist. It's something that he's like the old school left wing, where you're all about like civil rights for the most part. You're all about the, kind of blanking on Bill's stances with a lot of things. But I mean, as far as like the left wing versus the right wing, as far as money going towards propagating the rich people and making them richer versus going to poor people,
right.
How that affects society, he's certainly on the right side of politics with that. But he really, every chance he gets, he makes a misogynistic joke, whether it's funny or not. And eventually, you start to think, I think he believes really most of the stuff, which is why he was so upset when Hugh Hefner died, or even in the years leading up to that, because the Playboy Mansion was his breeding ground for picking up his girlfriends. Which, by the way, if you are such an intellectual, why would you not to smear Playmates or anything like that? But let's be honest, their business is selling sex and not as much selling ideas on politics or societal reform or anything like this. And I'm sure there's a few of them that are smart, but he's not dating people that are supposedly of his intellectual level. I mean, the word on him is that he likes to date younger women who basically, let's face it, when I was in my 20s, I didn't care as much about politics, but he likes to date younger women who are not of his intellectual ilk, because he loves to put them down and tell them how dumb they are and how, they're not, you don't know what you're talking about. You listen to me. I really, this may be, you can say whether or not I'm right or wrong, but I think there's a thing about guys that prefer to have women like that they have really, I don't know what kind of interests they could have together, but those are the types of women supposedly that he liked to date. And yeah, as far as if you've seen his stand-up show, you know the difference between the real-time show, or Politically Incorrect, mostly the real-time show, which is recent, versus his stand-up act, and which one is better than the other. His stand-up act is based off of his material. The show mostly is based off of the writer's material. So I know you've seen him live and said, boy, that he really sucks. And I've seen a few of his stand-up specials too, and they're not nearly as funny as his show.
I fell asleep.
Yeah, that's not good. Anything, again, she's as much to blame as Bill Maher, but I guess I don't ever watch a Drew Barrymore's show. I could care less about her or her show. Although she's guilty, anything to say about her, she's just as guilty. I guess I don't care because I never watch it. But do you have anything to say about Drew Barrymore?
Like, I'm tired of seeing these, like, apologetic videos where, like, they, you know, her and Ashton and Mila, they film these apologetic videos in, like, the most unused part of their house or wherever the fuck, so it looks like they're common, and then they put on a face. And she did that, she started crying and shit, but it's like, it's hard to take her serious when you have two audience members that try to go in and they had pins on supporting the writers, and they were booted. The security booted them, and then through pressure, she changed her mind and put the show on hold. But it's just it just shows that, like, a lot of these people in Hollywood and the entertainment industry are fucking shallow and greedy. And they really don't care. And it's like, you have people working for them that are starving, sleeping in their cars. They don't make enough to, qualify for medical or dental insurance. They have kids. There's all these elements. But yeah, she's so full of shit. And so is Bill Maher, like, when it comes to this. And it's just ridiculous. And like I said, this is, let's say this again, this isn't a time of exposure. And to show how rich people just really don't give a shit. But she's full of shit, and, I don't give a fuck about her show either. It's just like, it's just sad, and, fuck them. Like, they get all that they deserve.
Exactly, and I really don't think with those guys, they have plenty of money. My guess is that they refuse to give up what they love to do to actually sacrifice for the people that work for them. And that's a really disgusting trait or habit for a boss when when it comes down to it, that they don't have your back. It's one thing if you're a faceless corporation, but those guys see and talk to their writers every week, probably have some kind of personal relationship with them. My question is, when the strike is finalized, are their writers going to go back to them? Are their writers going to say, write your own shit, or are they going to have to get new writers? Because, if you work for them, would you really want to go back there when it's proven, when it comes down to it, they'll sell you down the river in a heartbeat? Let's move on to politics. Before we do, Dirty, any last words about the general feeling about Hollywood? There's a lot of people in Hollywood ever since the Me Too movement, especially, that have really been taking a lot of heat. And besides not making movies based off of the pandemic and the writer's strike, it's really been a dormant, aside from all the crime, kind of a dormant town when it comes to work, except for all of the fiascos that have come out. What do you think about all of the stuff that has come out about Hollywood directors or Hollywood producers or the moneymakers and Hollywood actors, all this kind of stuff that has just been nonstop?
Yeah, I think it's sad to watch, but it's something that has to happen, and I think hearing about and what's going on and seeing everything, I think it's good, and I support them all the way, and I don't know how you could treat people like that, and I'm glad they're having their time, and I hope somehow the heads of these corporations get their head out of their ass and out of their wallet and fucking just, like, my thing is this: if these people help make all this fucking money, why can't you treat the people, the machine, the people behind your product that's a success? Why don't you treat them well? And they'll work for you more. Like, they'll work for you, like no problem. There's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of great TV that's come out and movies, but it's
not only that, but why don't they, while the strike is going on, what these rich motherfuckers could do? Fund their writers if they want to keep the show going. Say, okay, until the strike gets resolved, whatever your pay is, I'll fund your pay and give you benefits until the strike is resolved. And they have a ton of money. Talking about Drew Barrymore is like iconic sort of like old school Hollywood money. There's like billions in her family. And Bill Maher's been in entertainment for 40 years. He's been on TV for 30 years, including Politically Incorrect. So anyway, yeah, well said. We will have more news on that in the future when we do another one of these podcasts. Let's move over to politics. We know that Kevin McCarthy, who is the Speaker of the House of Reps, is fighting with some of his fellow Republicans about whether or not to impeach Joe Biden. And for him being involved somewhat in his son's business dealings, which of course do seem somewhat shady, but they don't have too much evidence that I know of that implicates Joe Biden in this. And by the way, shady business dealings. If you're going to try to impeach a president based off of shady business dealings, there would be no presidents. Okay? And if you compare that to being a traitor, trying to interrupt a fair election and trying to use the military to confiscate voting machines the way that Trump did, and they refused to impeach him, I don't want to hear a fucking thing. About it. Unless Joe Biden starts World War III or the next Civil War, I don't want to hear a fucking thing from Republicans about shady business dealings. I want Trump in prison first before anything else. What do you think about not only Kevin McCarthy? I guess is kind of on the kind of in between this a little bit. He doesn't seem like he really wants to proceed. But you have those far right wackos led by the Freedom Caucus and Jim Jordan, who is the head of the Judiciary Oversight Committee, which every single oversight he does is about the left. There's not one goddamn thing that guy has ever oversaw that has anything to do with the tremendous amount of shady business dealings on the right, or shady business operations, or shady operations within the White House conducted by Trump and his administration. What do you think about it?
I just think it's ridiculous, and they want to try to impeach Trump or Biden, but it's like they can't come up with anything. They have nothing. Hunter Biden just got busted and charged with for buying a gun and lying on the form, which you think the NRA would step in and be like, hey, don't be so tough on him, but they didn't say anything. But yeah, and it's just I've watched reports where a bunch of lawyers are talking about the way they charged him was so rare, and the way they did it, they would use that technique for to add to a charge, not the sole reason of charging him, and it's just wild. I don't like Hunter Biden. I don't give a fuck about that guy. But I don't care if he's a crackhead though. This whole thing with drugs as this negative thing, and it's not always good, whatever, but it's not the 80s anymore. You can't use drugs as a scapegoat for and to damage somebody's character, and it's you want to talk about Hunter Biden, but it's are you serious? Literally almost all the Trump kids had shady dealings in the White House while Trump was in office, and they had access to everything. It's just you got to be fucking kidding me. And to go over and to say that Biden's guilt by association, Joe Biden, it's ridiculous, because it's Jimmy Carter had his brother, Bill Clinton had his brother, Reagan had his two kids, and then you have George Bush when he was he's under his dad, he's a drunk, and then sobered up. But it's just it's the weakest sauce, and it's but they don't have anything. Even when they go on Fox News, Comer or Jordan, they go, well, no, we're going to find something, and then they're going to try to and they don't even have the votes for the impeachment. Not even all the Republicans are on board, because they're we don't want to do this. This shit is a mess. And it's did you see what happened for Trump? And it's this is a waste of time, and it's just going to make things worse. And it just makes Joe Biden look better, because then it's you pull up his record, and it's okay, so he's accomplished actually a lot. And then, so you're trying to fuck with this guy and you don't have anything, and it's like it's frustrating because it's like it just makes the Republicans look like fucking weak and feckless, and it's like you're literally just doing this because you're trying to get back for Trump, and Trump was also. Well, I would say real quick, Trump also is, it's also been said that he's behind this shit, and it's like that guy is fucking falling off his rockers as well during this whole thing.
You know, Hunter Biden is not a government employee.
Right.
Why the government is involved in this is beyond me. The only, of course, it's not beyond me, of course. The thing is that they're trying to create a ghost to try to take people's attention away from all of the indictments of Donald Trump. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And as far as, I know that there's some business dealings that Hunter Biden had with the Ukraine and had with China. They're trying to connect them to Joe Biden when he was vice president, not now that he's president. But if you talk about shady business dealings in association with families of presidents or vice presidents in other countries, not to say that Hunter Biden isn't shady or that maybe there is something there. If there is, go ahead. I don't really care. I mean, if he is guilty, then go ahead. But I want to see Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in prison because he got a $200 billion deal from the Saudi Arabian government.
Right after.
Coincidentally, Trump is the one that allowed the massacre, the assassination of that American journalist when he went back to Saudi Arabia, to the Saudi Arabian prince. We know that's connected with the big business deal that Jared Kushner has. You give up this guy, we'll give your son-in-law a big $200 billion contract. So again, I don't want to hear any of this bullshit when all of this Trump stuff is out there and he's still not behind bars.
Right.
Let me see if there's anything else with that case. Well, we can go back to that case if there's anything else. Let's go on to, oh my God, Lauren Boebert, the resident bimbo of our political spectrum currently. Her and Marjorie Taylor Greene are the biggest idiots that I think I've ever seen. I thought that Dan Quayle maybe was the dumbest person in politics before these two fucking bitches came along. Lauren Boebert, of course, extremely anti-LGBTQ, makes comments about their public decorum, how they shouldn't be kissing in public, how it's disgusting that the way that they dress and they present themselves. Meanwhile, she's at a theater with little kids around. She's groping the penis of her date, vaping, creating a disturbance, yelling, telling people when they ask her to stop to go fuck themselves. And they say, you know what, you're going to have to be removed. Then she says, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? God. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. This case is really pathetic and disgusting. And what do you think about it?
She has no shame. The guy she was with was a Democrat, and he's gay, and I believe he's the owner of a gay nightclub. So she's full of shit for that. They're just constant. I mean, they're so full of shit that, I mean, it's almost biblical. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not a Christian. But if you look in the Bible, if you look at Revelations, it talks about phony Christians doing evil things in God's name. And like these people like are fucking, like they're Swiss cheese, man. They're so full of shit. They're so full of holes. It's like unbelievable. Like she's just ridiculous. And then she gets busted and she just, dude,
and lies about it, right?
And lies about it. It's just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah, she tries to say she wasn't vaping. Oh, you were being recorded the whole time. You're blowing smoke out of your mouth. I wasn't groping him. There's a picture of her hand in the pants lap of the guy she was with. And the whole thing about this is the thing about the religious right is the hypocrisy. The finger pointing at other people, they're the reasons why everything is wrong in society. Meanwhile, they don't practice what they preach. Number one. Number two, even if they did practice what they preach, you're supposed to have a certain amount of tolerance for other human beings, especially when it comes just to their lifestyle decisions, being gay, being lesbian, trans, everything that qualifies into that acronym. It's really just quite pathetic how far they'll go. And the fact that she's in politics in the first place, the fact that she is a representative, and I don't mean to come down on people that if you don't have a high school degree, and I've mentioned this before, but there's a lot of commonplace jobs where you have to have a high school degree just to get a job. And she's in politics. And this is the thing. If she was knocking it out of the park, it'd be like, hey, guess what? Maybe we should look at this more often. Maybe it doesn't. But to anyone that doesn't have a high school degree that's in politics, she's giving you a bad name because look at what she's doing.
Right.
And the thing is they kept pointing the finger at Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, she used to be a bartender. She used to be this. Guess what? She worked herself through college, actually working, which is actually a success story. This chick hasn't worked at anything except
she's an escort.
She's an escort. She's divorced too. She's divorced, claiming that lesbians and gays are ruining family values. Meanwhile, she can't hold up her own household. Her and Marjorie Taylor Greene are both recently divorced. They're scum. They're losers. I'm so sick and tired of seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene's smiling, condescending face as she's on some sort of board while she's a fucking bird brain. I gotta tell you, man, just for a second, I really, all of this stuff, when we do these podcasts, a little bit of it is depressing. We're presenting news, we're presenting facts, and opinions. But when we get to these kind of things, when we talk about people like this in politics, I really have to separate myself after we do these podcasts because it gets sad. When we talk about Trump as the actual president. Trump is still not behind bars despite all of the crimes that he's committed. Boebert and Green are part of our U.S. representatives or whatever district that it really, I do love America and I'd rather live here than any place else, even though I've never been any place else. But when we report on these kind of things, it makes me embarrassed.
Oh yeah.
That to be American when this is who is at the center of politics. I mean, what do you think?
I agree with you, and I am just, I meet people from other countries, and I try to get an idea what people think, and I'm just surprised how people still they're able to, a lot of people come here are able to separate the government with the population, and I just don't know, like I'm truly, like, I'm not even embarrassed anymore because it's like, but it is embarrassing, and it's just I'm so tired of people just glorifying this country like it's the greatest, but then it's less like, have you seen what we've done and where we are in the world? And it's like, it's disgusting because it's like, I meet people from other countries. I was working with people from Turkey, Thailand, and Jamaica, and everybody had, everybody I worked with was young. They were so nice, and like everybody was either in the process of going to school or finishing going to school, and they had dreams and everything. They're very sweet, compassionate people. And it's like, you look at us as Americans, and it's like, we're starving, we're dying, the corporations rule us, it's militarized. I mean, I could go on and on, but it's like, I'm so tired of like people who are jingoistic and so proud of this shit. And it's like, have you seen this country? Like, nobody has a problem with like mass shooters and fucking starvation and, like the income inequality and homelessness. I was in Portland, and you look, and there's tents all over. I live up here in Juneau, Alaska, and it's like there's tweaker caravans all over the place. People are stealing food, and it's just like, you can get a gun at the drop of a hat, but then it's like, I talked to this one lady I know. She studied, took an education class. She has a degree in education. She doesn't want to put her kid in school. She's like afraid for her, whether it be like her safety or fucking the education, the curriculum. And I mean, it's just on and on and on. And it's all these preventable issues that like, it's getting old, man. And it's embarrassing, compared to other countries that are trying to make it and like fucking, better themselves as a population. It's hard, man. It's fucking hard, and it frustrates me and makes me sad too. It just, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, one last thing about the government before we transition, and we're going to do a few pieces about Trump before we get out of here. There's a looming government shutdown, and it's being perpetrated by the Republicans in the House that don't want to fund the next bill. There's a difference in what they want to fund. We know that neither party is exempt from criticism.
Right.
For sure. Democrats, for the most part, want to use government to help people, whether or not it's for food stamps, to assist single moms, a number of things. I'd have to do a lot more research to give up much more specific instances as we're on the fly here. But the government shutdown supposedly is going to center around not enough money being given to secure the border. And it's so weird that I'm not saying the border control is not. We did an episode about this. I am not someone that thinks that we shouldn't have border control. We should. We should have some amounts of power over how many people come in so that we can account for them once they're here, jobs, places to live. So, but it really, it really comes down to this. They don't care the fact that all the government employees are going to be shut down. They don't care about all of the, I believe it would affect Social Security payments to elderly people.
Right.
There's a number of things that would affect. They treat it like it's like, yeah, I'm not going to buy gum this week. Or I'm not going to, this week I think I'll do without lunch meat. I'll do that. They act like it's such a simple, like, okay, they'll just shut the whole thing down. Yeah, it really seems like there's two different parties here. One that tries to use government to help people. Another that tries to use government to ruin government, to make sure that there's no government. If you don't want government, then just get out of government. Or if it's for people that just are so greedy, they want to only the government dollars to help fund their own needs and concerns. And the other thing too is that when it comes to the shutdown, one major component of it, kind of blanking again. Do you have anything to say about this while I get my?
No, I agree.
I don't have enough notes about this, to be honest with you. No,
you're right. I mean, they play with people's lives. Like basically, they talk about getting rid of Social Security. They're using the shutdown, which they did before with Trump because they didn't get their way for some weird reason. But it's like you're playing with people's lives here. You're playing. A lot of people are dependent on a lot of these programs, and it's like you're just gonna like. You're gonna just play games, and it's like a lot of these people are millionaires. Literally, a lot of these politicians are millionaires. So it's like they won't even be affected by this shit. Like what kills me about the Republicans and money is like they act like it's their money and they're doling it out when it's our money because it's tax dollars. And it's like if we want this as a group of people, as a society, if we want some of this shit. They have to fucking agree to it and fucking and go along with it and make sure that everything runs smoothly. These fuckers don't give two shits about reality because it's like they don't really know what they believe. They're bigots and they're causing this country to go to shit. And it's like you shut down the government. See how that worked with fucking Clinton in the 90s when he did that. See how well it worked with fucking Trump. And, it sucks, and I get frustrated because it's just like these assholes, they don't give a shit. They're all rich, man. They all make good money.
But that's the fact that whenever Republicans are in charge, they're all about spending money because nobody has increased the debt more than Bush with the war in Iraq, and Trump. Trump actually said, I'm going to lower the debt ceiling. We're going to get spending under control. The debt raise, I don't know what the amount is. It's at least double, if not 3 times the amount of debt when Trump was president. Democrats come in, want to use some money to do what? To fix the fucking mistakes that were created by Republicans in the first place.
Right.
Then all of a sudden Republicans get all testy with money. They're like, whoa. It's time to get this under control here. You want to know why? Because they don't want Democrats to actually fix their problems because it makes them look bad and it makes Democrats look good.
Yeah, it's true. We're witnessing that right now.
So we'll see about the government shutdown. We have a couple of other topics to discuss regarding the indictments against Trump currently. One is the Georgia racketeering case. The other is the missing documents case, of course. It turns out that there's two different people that have flipped. The one that has flipped in the Georgia racketeering case is his wacko lawyer, Lynn Wood, who is kind of partners in crime with Sidney Powell in the Stop the Steal movement.
Yeah.
This ridiculous thing that they're trying to prove that Trump really won when he didn't. The other one, of course, is the missing documents case that Trump took, refused to give back, says he gave back, and then somebody outed him at Mar-a-Lago and said, there's a bunch more here. You should come and see. And as it turns out, he just refuses to give them back to the point where even after a subpoena, he refused to give them back. So guess what? Now there's a case again. Now he's getting prosecuted, even though if you listen to him, I'm being prosecuted for you. This is all for you, for the people.
Yeah.
Now it turns out his security IT person, who is in charge of taping the footage, is the one that's flipped against him. And you know what I find amazing, Dirty, is the fact that this guy had a public defender, which you know what that means, that Trump refused to provide him with a lawyer. He refused to pay for his legal bills. So you know what happens?
Right.
Then he starts to get scared, and he meets with a public defender who all of a sudden is like, you know what? This is what you have. Like, you should really, you should flip. Why are you going to go down for this guy?
Right.
All of a sudden the story changes, and he's like, you know what? I want to recant my entire story. So what do you think? I mean, we got the Georgia case, which is more recent. Obviously, that there's 18 different people indicted. And then, of course, we know the missing documents case. What do you think about these two people flipping? Do you think it could actually result in him finally going down? Not to mention the fact that, Dirty, if you want to talk about after that, you talk about, what's that other latest development? Him doing the interview, saying that his defense, of course, with the Georgia racketeering case, with him instilling these fake electors into these different states, he comes back. At first he said it was his lawyers, then he comes back and says, no, I make all the decision me. So what do you think about this?
I think he's an idiot, and the more they should do more interviews because he just gives up more information and he proves how guilty he is. Secondly, one of his assistants was like, said that he had these boxes, and he goes, you don't know anything about it. And then he was taking pieces of files and documents and then writing to-do lists on them. Like, what the fuck kind of shit? It's like, you gotta be fucking insane. And like, he's a fucking buffoon, man. Like, he's a careless buffoon. And it's like he's no awareness. His speech, man, we could talk about his speech where like he's getting Biden confused with Obama and that, you know, Biden's going to cause World War II. And it's like he talks about Biden's mental agility. And it's like, have you seen this guy? And it's like, you can't edit it and make up this shit. Like, I can't believe, like, it just, the more and more he just gets out there, the more he just gives the prosecutors more info and more backup to use against him.
And if you listen to his constituents, either number one, they won't care because I don't care as long as it's a Republican in there that's going to lower corporate taxes and a bunch of loopholes, so I don't have to give money towards schools and railroads and police and the fire department and all these kind of things, both national and statewide or countywide. Then they don't care, or they're so wrapped up in hatred of these minority groups that as long as he's for that, he can be as corrupt as he wants to be. The one true thing, I've always said, the one true thing that Trump said was that he could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square, and he wouldn't lose one vote. That's probably the only true thing that he's ever said. I
can't believe how it is.
And if I was running against Trump, I would use those words and direct it at the people that vote for him and say, is that really true? Could he do that and you would still vote for him? Is that how low you really are? Because that's what he thinks of you. He especially pointed at evangelicals. That's one of their big to-do lists as far as the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Really?
Do you think
he'll really kill somebody and he'll get your evangelical vote? Is that really how strong religion is to you? And then all of a sudden you find out how important Jesus is to people versus how much they hate gay people or how much they hate black people or how greedy they are. Then all of a sudden you see really what their real mindset is and where their heart really is, which ironically is supposed to be the ultimate judgment of whether or not they're going to get into heaven or not, about how God will always know your heart and where you come from rather than all the bullshit that you present that are lies that people find out about. Okay,
man.
This was an action-packed podcast. Lots of topics, lots of flubs. Unfortunately, my caffeine worked against me a little bit. But what else? Any last words, Dirty, before we get out of here?
Well, I just wanted to mention, also in the news, I find it entertaining how Oprah and The Rock are fucking getting shafted as well because they're both being proven to be just nasty. The Rock lost, I think he got dropped from his PR firm. Basically, he sold out like Hawaiians and the people in Lahaina. Oprah's getting like just shown how she's just a fucking rich douche and that she is completely clueless to how society is. And to be a billionaire, I mean, it's bad enough for you're a millionaire, but to be a billionaire and then to set up a fund so, you know, to ask people for money when she could literally fund the entire state of Hawaii and clean it up herself because she has her own wealth is more than the budget probably of the state. And then she's like completely just, playing it off and, these people are unhappy. It's like, look, motherfucker, like you've contributed to society with like Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, the two fucking losers who fucking are gross. And it's like, you know, why don't you kick down some of this money of the property that you fucking bought? Which I'm beginning to get more on board with like the people who say, we don't want anybody on this island anymore. Anybody who's come here, fucking, who's not Hawaiian, like they've come and just fucked up this place, and it's becoming unlivable. And they're in the streets. There's all these homeless people, and so fuck Oprah and fuck The Rock, man. Even Jason Momoa was just like, they're fucking evil. Like, how are you sitting there asking poor people for money? Like, we're broke in this country. So,
I would love to see South Park do another Oprah episode. One of my favorite of all time is when they did the side characters for her genitalia, basically, as Minji Gary, in these great British voices. Minji, we took a shot to the stomach, Minji Gary. What's going on? The government, we need a chopper. We want a chopper and $1 million, or we're gonna get out of here. And then anyway, if you haven't seen that episode, please look it up. It's great. We're the Master Blaster podcasters putting misinformation on blast. Please join us for gun control and mass shootings next time. For all the listeners, we love you. Please contact us if you can. Let us know any little tidbits of information or opinions that you have. www.masterblasterpodcasters.com. We're on RSS and every major podcasting platform. And if you haven't yet, please check us out on YouTube. On behalf of the main man, Dirty, I am Geeziz. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Have a good one.